Hey everybody, welcome to the Pulse. I'm happy to be back with you guys after a few weeks of being busy or gone or just busy and gone and all of the above. I have missed you guys terribly, but I'm happy to be back. We have a lot of updates this week. This week was the Microsoft Inspire, which is the partner conference where Microsoft gets together, typically in person, but this year it was virtual. I was glad it was virtual because it let me catch some sessions while still being at home, while still catching important sessions. And then do things like, if I wanted to do yoga, there was one with coloring, there was one with animals, it was great. Any type of thing you wanted. They tended to have actually a good mix. There was one this morning I watched about being empathetic and helping each other through COVID. It was a really great. So some of the stuff I giggle at, like there's a session on coloring. Some of it's actually like really cool, legitimate stuff. So props to them. They put on a great conference. I'll tease them about it, but it was fantastic. So that happened. The technical sessions were good as usual. Some great stuff with teams. We got to see some more stuff in action. Got to see some Project Cortex. There's a new feature that Tom, I'm going to just let him talk about, the data flux. So Tom will talk about that when the time comes, somewhere on the list. And so all in all, a really good week. So we'll kind of go through the list. It is a little bit longer this week, so we'll try to group them together when we can and kind of go from there. So we are going to start with the category of in development. So what this means is that they are developing it behind the scenes in Microsoft. So they're building it, they're working on it. It is there for people to develop. I'm going to take one and then let the team go for it. So the one I'm going to take is Microsoft Teams for RealWear. And this is actually a pretty cool feature. This is the feature that's going to allow people, think of it as first line workers or assembly line workers or different workers that would have the need to be inside of Microsoft Teams and communicating or collaborating, but they need their hands to do their job. And they need to be able to work with kiosk and machines and different things like that. And so they're working on a remote experience where they can do video calls and different things there through a completely voice-controlled interface on RealWear. So it's going to allow field workers to remain 100% remote using voice and still have their hands completely free to do that. So I think that's something that's really cool. I think that's the future of when we talk about, digital transformation, and they talk a lot about how the workplace is going to change. It is not going to be your grandpa's factory in another 5 or 10 years. It's going to be different. And these are the types of things that we're going to be seeing. And so when they talk about workforce transformation and digital change and different things like that, this is how technology is going to come out, and we're going to start to see those things. So I thought that was a really cool thing to see in development. So we will see that go through the stages and come out there. Of course, you're probably not going to see that in every workplace. That probably will not be in our workplace. We don't have a need for it. But it will be in many different places. So I thought that was a pretty cool one. So I'll pass it to anyone else who wants to kind of take one for one of the in developments. And Tom, I can see him ready to talk.
Well, no, I was going to pass to Tamara because I was going to do like 4 that are up kind of at the top of the list that are completely unrelated with each other, but I didn't want to step on her. So would you like to go with it, Tamara?
Sure, I'll go. I wanted to talk about Bookings. And Bookings, if you haven't heard about it, is an application that allows customers to set their own appointments. So like my chiropractor uses something like this where I can go online, I can book my own appointment with my own doctor and pick the date and the time and the doctor and everything like that. And then I get a confirmation email. So it takes that whole calling each other, calling for an appointment, going back and forth with, is the doctor available, takes all of that out of the equation and puts it all in a neat little package. And Microsoft has been working on Bookings quite a bit, apparently, or is working on Bookings quite a bit. So they're talking about cloning an existing Bookings calendar. So that would be good year over year, so you can have a fresh calendar. Add an attachment to notification emails. So if you have some pre-patient paperwork that needs to be filled out, you can attach that to the confirmation email. Updates to staff roles. the addition of a scheduler role and to change the roles within the calendar privileges. So it gives you more control over that. And then CC functionality for email notifications. So you can add an additional CC to the email confirmation and reminder emails. So in case somebody has like a care provider, you can also CC them on that. Or if they're working with a transportation service, you can CC that. And then also just an updated user experience, updated the design and enhanced the user experience for viewing main components of the web app and create a more connected experience. So Microsoft is really putting a lot of time and effort into this bookings app. And I think for some customers, it's going to be a real winner. It's available with M365 if you have the enterprise version. Otherwise, you can buy it separately.
Cool. Well, I will go ahead and take 4 entries here towards the top, as I mentioned, completely unrelated, but I don't think they're things Adam would talk about. So I'll go ahead and do these before we move further down on the list. So one is Microsoft Teams call merge. This is really interesting. The fact that if you have, like 2 different calls going on, you can like bring the one call into the other instead of having to go, oh, well, can you hang up and I'll rejoin you on this? It's just going to make a nice experience if you're doing a lot of calling within a Teams environment. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that comes out. And it does apply for both Teams voice over IP calls and the standard telephone line calls, if that's how you're doing your connection. Second one that I think is really good, and I know that this was one of the main things in my mind when we first did Stream, and that is SharePoint's going to allow caching of SharePoint Online videos for Azure Content Delivery Network to improve video playback and reliability. Bottom line, what that comes down to is Stream does a lot of that stuff automatically, which is great, but some people don't want to store their videos in Stream. They want to store it in a SharePoint site, and they play it from the SharePoint site. And that can bog down the network because SharePoint's not set up to be able to stream things like that. Well, now it's going to do a lot better. It's going to have a content delivery network or CDN support, so it can actually push it out to the nearest users to get a better network experience. So I think that's a very positive thing for those who don't want to really buy into the whole stream aspect. OneDrive, improved sync warning for locked files. So if you're trying to sync something locally and the file is opened up by somebody, you're now going to get a better warning for that. And it's not going to be quite as nebulous as it might be otherwise. So I think that'll help with the whole OneDrive syncing thing, stuff like that. And then one thing that surprised me that we couldn't do this yet, but you will be able to now, and that is using the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. You'll be able to go out and actually remove a Teams message from the team chat or channel for communication compliance. Now, rather than just delete it and poof, it says it's gone, it's actually going to replace the message with a policy tip explaining it was removed due to sensitive content. So I think that's something that's really positive because, yeah, you can have people go off the rails in a Teams chat or say something that they thought was funny and nobody else did. So if you can actually go out as a compliance administrator here and remove content like that, I think that's a very positive thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing that hit too.
Right, and sometimes it's not even off color or something like that. Maybe they said something about a project that they weren't supposed to share.
Information.
Yeah, or maybe they shared a detail that was supposed to be shared with this group but not that group or something like that. So there's other a lot of times it's easy to kind of forget where we are, so that's another way to make people feel more comfortable that they can fix those things. So I'm excited to see that one in development. Yep. Another one coming to GCC High and DoD that I'm excited about are the read receipts. I found that pretty helpful. I know it kind of felt like when it first came out, a lot of people felt like it was a little bit of Big Brother-ish if people read my Teams messages, but I kind of like it because I'll send a Teams message to somebody and then I can check it. And if they haven't read the Teams message, then I know they're either not at their desk or they're busy and they don't know what's going on. And a lot of times I know I need to follow up in an email or I need to give them a call or something like that if they haven't read it.
I love my little eyeball icons.
Yeah, so it's really helpful for me, not necessarily because I need to follow up. But then also sometimes I just send stuff that doesn't need a response. So sometimes it's good to know, okay, they saw it, we're good. I didn't need a response, but I know that they know. And
Right.
so it's good. And so I'm glad that that's going to be coming into the GCC High and DoD. So Adam, what about you? Anything in the in development area?
Yeah, so there's a couple ones. I'm going to stick to the let's be happy for our GCC High and DoD people thing. There's three things I'll mention. The easiest, most high-level one, and this is one that impacted one of my clients. They're finally rolling out spell checker for Microsoft Teams, which like
Wow.
I dealt with a Microsoft escalation for like a month and a half on this one of going through like multiple escalation points where the Microsoft engineers didn't know that spell checker wasn't out for GCC High users, and like it was infuriating. So the fact that they're going to release that is nice. I actually sent an update to my client as soon as I saw this. I was like, hey, look, it's finally coming. The two other ones are a little bit more nerdy, but definitely cool. I think it's kind of interesting how late this is coming to the roadmap, though. So both these are slated for Q3 of this year, so coming out. But Aip Scanner and Aip Unified Labeling Client for Windows is coming to the government clouds, specifically for DoD. This is interesting to me. So the Aip Scanner and the Unified Labeling Client have been out in commercial for a bit. What the Unified Labeling Client is what became of sensitive information type / labeling with a generic E5 labeling that they came out, where they're combining it into one big system. So whether you're looking for like sensitive information types or whether you want to label something like internal only or whatever, it's now one tool. But in order to apply that to like Office documents and stuff like that, you basically have to download a plugin for your Office suite on your computer. Now, they've already said, and it's been in the roadmap for a while, that this is eventually coming just out of the box for the, I guess it's Enterprise Apps for Office 365 or whatever they're calling it, Microsoft 365 Enterprise Apps, what used to be Office Pro Plus. It's coming out of the box for that. But so the fact that it is eventually coming out of the box, but you're just now seeing it hit the roadmap for what's already actively trying to be replaced in commercial for DoD. I think that's going to take a while there, but so that's coming out there. And then the Aip Scanner for on-premise is a really cool thing. If you've never had to do like large compliance stuff with organizations that maybe have old file systems or something like that, the Aip Scanner is basically a tool that you can plug into an on-premise organization, and it will go through and do data classification based off of the labels that you want to do in 365 with on-premise stuff, which is just really cool. One of the big benefits and driving factors of why people go to the cloud is some of the artificial intelligence, machine learning type stuff that you can do. And the fact that there is a tool that they have implicitly designed to plug into legacy on-premise stuff and go through and do that same crawling and labeling for you is awesome. And it's cool to see it come into the DoD space because you have some of those government contractors that just have buttloads of information sitting on-prem system that they don't feel comfortable moving up to the cloud. So really cool to see that coming out there.
Nice.
Awesome. Cool. One other thing I saw, and then we'll kind of pass it around for others that have things in here, is the SharePoint site performance page for site owners and site editors. It's going to be under the site homepage under site settings. It's going to show the page diagnostics for the SharePoint tool, and the information is going to let you know if there's things you can do to increase the performance. And so this is one item that I think we've actually seen on the roadmap, and then we've seen it get canceled on the roadmap, and now we're seeing it come back to the roadmap. So, different times we'll see things come different ways and do that. So I'm excited to see this one back on the roadmap, back in development, because I remember I was a little sad when it had been canceled. So I'm excited to see that one's back. On the roadmap, they're going to go about it a different way, and so I'm excited to see where they're going to go, with that one. So, very excited to see that one.
Go for it, Tamara.
One of the things that I found interesting is Microsoft is making a huge investment in its in-room equipment. So the collaboration bar for Microsoft Teams is a piece of equipment that you have in the room with you. And they're just really doing a lot of development around it right now. So they have things like 3x3 video on the collaboration bar, 1080p resolution for outgoing video on the collaboration bar, and then dual front of room screen support on the collaboration bar. and center of room meeting council support on the collaboration bar, raise hands from the collaboration bar, pin a video, consume controlled structure meeting role support and roster controls from the collaboration bar, so the presenters and the attendees, and control live captions. I mean, they're really just putting a lot into it. And then the other thing that I found interesting with Microsoft Teams was the updated functionality for downloading participant reports in team meetings. I know.
After the call, finally.
After the call, especially for teachers and event organizers who often need to know who joined the call and how many people joined their team meetings.
Yeah.
So with the new enhancement, they're going to allow you to download the report after the meeting within the meeting chat.
Yeah, we've had.
And they've also added new data to the report that allows you to better manage your attendance.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal because they'll go, well, how can I get a list of people who were in the thing? I saw there were like 60 at one point. It's like, well, and you didn't capture it before you signed off. You're kind of out of luck here. So this will be a good thing.
Yeah.
It was funny when I was talking with Tamara about the list beforehand. I'm looking at the collaboration bar. I'm like, half the stuff's already on the collaboration bar. And I was thinking collaboration bar, lowercase collaboration bar, thinking the little thing that showed up on the screen. She goes, no, it's a device. Like, oh, that explains a whole lot now. So that kind of put me up there. I've got two other things, and then I'll be done with the in development stuff for the things I want to talk about. One is on the SharePoint site usage page for your 90-day usage stats. They're now going to be able to, or they're now going to allow you to actually export that to Excel, which I think is a good thing because some people want to take that and then, store up information over time. And you're like, I can only go back 90 days. How come I can't go back further? Well, now they can kind of go out and do their own historical stuff if that's what they want. So that's a good thing. And then the big one that Jennifer alluded to earlier is they announced this week something called Microsoft DataFlex. And I wasn't paying really...
By the way, I cannot hear it, see it, say it, read it without a fun character voice in my head. It's like a superhero or a weightlifter or a something. So...
Yeah, I will admit, yes, there is a certain thing like, oh, power flex. I'm going to power flex on this data. So, and I'm surprised they didn't call it power flex because everything else is power at this stage of the game. So what this is, from the little reading I've done so far, because it's only been a couple days, is Microsoft DataFlex is basically the CDS service or the CDS model, Common Data Service, which you have right now, but in order to use it, you go from like an E5 license, which is, $7 per person per month, whatever. You go up to like $40. Like, wow, you have to be really committed to want to use CDS, but it does allow you to store entities, relational data. It's kind of like a SQL Server environment for your Office 365 stuff, for lack of a better term, generic. Well, what they're doing with DataFlex is they're giving you this relational image file data processing stuff with a one-click experience, and they're making it available within Teams at the same cost if you have Teams already in your licensing. So you're going to be able to do things like using their integrated app development studio to do these custom apps within Teams, Power Virtual Agents like your chatbots and stuff like that. You're going to be able to use this to build those in Teams. The key thing here is within Teams. I think it kind of shows what they're looking at Teams being even bigger. In fact, I saw somebody reference, one of the head people said, yeah, Teams is going to be bigger than Windows. So I think when you start to expand this out to what Teams is going to end up being, yeah, they're putting some functionality that I would personally like to see available for a lot of other things. But if they're making it available for Teams right now, and you'll start to be able to play with it and build custom apps within the Teams environment, I think that's a good thing. So I'm sure a lot of it will change. It's probably like the the Microsoft list thing that was, oh, look at this list, yay. Well, now you're starting to see it come out and you're starting to see how it actually works. I think the data flex is going to be like that over the next 3 to 4 months, where you find out where the limits are, what you can and can't do with it, stuff like that. But keep your eyes open in that space, especially if you're trying to build any applications that may be relational in nature that don't actually fit well in a SharePoint Teams, or I'm sorry, a SharePoint list type format. You may be able to use the DataFlex format, which is, again, built on CDS, to do that within Teams, if that's a platform that you want to be able to roll that out and make it available to.
Yeah, I think the people that have looked at Power Apps in the beginning, Jen Mason included, and have said, way too hard, cannot teach power user, too hard, too hard, too hard. Now get to go back and look at it and say, wow, looky there, we have made some serious progress.
Yes.
And even with the data flex and some of the demos I was doing, I was like, well, looky there, that is some really cool stuff. And so I think that while it's still, I still don't believe it's, a simple end user tool. I don't believe it needs to be. So I do believe it's more of like a superpower user or something like that. But I believe there's a lot more functionality into it. And I believe with the data flex, there's some licensing that is opening it up. So it's not as, I'm not jumping, like you said, Tom, from 7 to 40 or something like that. So I believe that's the takeaway that most people should be taking from this announcement and the data flex is, if you looked at it a year ago, now you need to come look at it again. And you can't look at these tools and then not look at them. You have to keep looking at them. It's not, will it meet my needs? It's, does it meet my needs now? And then as we keep going back and looking at them. And I think now it opens up the door for us to look at them again. So I'm excited to go back to it.
Well, I know that when I would take like the Power Apps in a Day course, they had one section in there that was how to build something in CDS using Canvas app to expose the data. Well, this is slightly different, but all of a sudden it's like, oh, I could actually use this now within the Teams environment instead of going, yeah, this is nice, but nobody's paying $40 a person a month for this thing. So I think it's going to open up some experiences there and some different types of application development that we just haven't had available to us. In many cases, just because of the downright cost for it. So, well,
and at the end of the day, if you come up with enough small business cases to justify the cost, $40 a month per user becomes nothing.
True.
So so I don't think it's looking at those different pieces and understanding it, and that's really where we can help transform how the business goes. And so I think it's really neat to kind of see. I feel like some of the pieces are now starting to go, oh, like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now. So I think that was kind of the takeaway from those sessions. And so I think that's that's a takeaway that everybody should take from this, is it's time to go back and look at CRM, Power Apps, Dynamics, the whole Power Platform. Like, if the last time you looked at it was 3 months ago, that's too long. It's time to go back and look at it again and say, okay, fresh eyes. What can Power Apps and the Power Platform and all of this do for me? Because the story is really maturing. And now that it's coming into Teams, your users won't know the difference between, am I in Office, am I in the Power Platform, and whatever. They all play nicely together, because you have the Power BI stuff and the Power Apps, and users don't care. They just want data to make decisions with. And wow, look at that. That's what we're all getting now. And so I think that's one of the biggest takeaways.
Cool stuff.
My personal takeaway. Cool. Well, anyone else have anything from in development, or should we move to rolling on?
Rolling on.
We are rolling on.
Rolling. Keep the sneezer rolling.
All right, rolling out. The Sharepoint default site theme color is changing from blue to teal.
My world is rocked. My world is rocked.
So that is rolling out. So it will automatically update new and existing communication sites and team sites. Group sites and sites that have been customized will not be impacted, and moving forward, new sites will automatically default to the new teal theme. The new teal theme can be changed to the former blue theme at any time in the Change the Look panel.
So for all those people who spent the time matching that exact blue to all of their buttons and all of their backgrounds,
You
now
have a
people
job
can
again.
So that's rolling out. So, you know, if you can't change the name, you might as well change the color.
There you go. Oh, too funny. Well, I'll go ahead and throw out a couple here that are SharePoint related that I'm very excited about, actually. One, SharePoint listen libraries. You will now be able to create and save a view in quick edit mode instead of having to do it in regular mode and telling people, well, yeah, just click on the quick edit and then you can go in and do all your work. It seems like a small thing, but
it's huge.
yeah, you want to be able to say, okay, click on this view, and you just want it to automatically open up in quick edit mode, much like we used to be able to do with datasheet views.
Yes.
So I think that is really a big thing. Looking forward to it hitting our tenant. Not sure that we have that yet, but I'll go back and take a look probably afterwards. And then the other one is for quick edit page size. The default was always set to 30 items, which isn't a whole heck of a lot. And that would be like, okay, click the next, click the next, click the next. Now they're going to do it at 100 items per page, which again, you know, you're still going to have to click through if you have a view that's got a number of items in it, but at least it allows you to see more information on the page before you click, you know, keep having to click forward, and having it bounce around on the screen. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
Adam, how about you? There's a bunch of Atomy things down here.
Atomy things.
Well, the one that I thought was really cool that, again, this applies directly to work I've been doing over the last couple of months. So the new, or what's been out for a while, but advanced message encryption is finally coming to the GCC clouds. For those of you who just live in the commercial private sector, we've had the new version or what replaced traditional Office message encryption for about 2 years now. And what it really gives you is like a portal that as an admin, you can go in there and see what's currently being shared that was sent out through email encryption. You can do stuff like revoke access in real time and stuff like that. All of those are features of advanced message encryption. The old school way of when you had to do message encryption through Office 365 was you basically went through and it sent out an HTML attachment, but that was just, as long as they had that attachment, it worked. They could go in and log in and see stuff. So advanced message encryption is finally coming to the GCC clouds. It gives you the ability to set expiration dates on the emails when you send out them. Like I said, gives you that whole portal that as an admin, you can go in and see what is still outstanding, be able to revoke access real time, stuff like that. Whole bunch of just quality of life security improvements that are definitely going to be welcome to see. And I can say for sure that for all of my customers that I'm having to go down compliance journeys with, when this comes out, it will be a welcome change because it just makes it much easier to manage and much easier to pass an audit, to be blunt, because you can basically go through and say, hey, look, here's the system, here's how we manage it, here's what we do it. And it's much more complete, you know, with a bow on top of it system than what you currently have.
Yeah.
Tamara, you got anything there?
Yeah, I like what's going on with Outlook on the web right now. So there is an option to create all meetings as online meetings. So when you create a meeting, you can use Teams or Skype as your online meeting provider, and you can set Outlook to automatically create all of your meetings as an online meeting. And during this time of COVID and everybody working remotely, I have no in-person meetings. All of my meetings are online. So this, I think, just saves you a step and keeps you from forgetting, did I make that a Teams meeting or not? So, and then also you can disable the online meeting by just using a toggle per meeting when you create it for all the meetings. So you want to go into the calendar settings, and under events and invitations, that's where you'll find this online meeting setting.
This actually will save me multiple steps because I create a meeting, I send it, then I don't realize I didn't make it an online meeting, and no one else realizes until it's time to go to the meeting. Then it's a meeting with 4 people and 1 person lets me know. So I quickly try to get in there and update it before. But then 3 other people are emailing me at the same time I'm trying to create it. So then I'm emailing everyone and it's chaos. So this is going to be a very welcome feature.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think is really cool about what's going on in Outlook on the web, which I've seen this already in the Outlook client, but the option to end meetings early, like 15 minutes. So your hour-long meeting is actually 45 minutes. This gives people time, well, let's just say passing time, to do whatever needs to be done. In meetings. Otherwise, you are literally back-to-back meetings. You don't have time for lunch. You don't have time for the necessaries. And this really opens it up to that. So I like that it's prompting you. It's asking you, does it really need to be an hour-long meeting? Seriously.
I used to have that set in my Outlook client, and I really liked that because it did give you that break. And when I switched over to using Outlook on the web, all of a sudden I'm like, gosh, how come it's just doing back to back? Not like I had to go any place else for a meeting, but and then my coworker mentioned, hey, I see where the end meetings early option is now available. I'm like, really? Yay! So I went out and set that immediately because I love that feature.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting too. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I'm going to speak to the general trend. Microsoft Edge is getting quite a bit of love in the rolling out function.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a little bit, but I really think it follows a trend that you've seen with Microsoft over some of their other products over time. I kind of expect this to continue, where features that they have the ability to implement in Edge because they control Edge with their other products, you're going to start to see stuff come out there that just can't be done in other systems. This was very true of Intune when they first started rolling it out. Some of the like MAM stuff that you see, Intune is literally the only MDM type thing that can do it because Microsoft's controlling both ends of it. They're controlling the system that's doing the actual data as well as the mobile management platform. And so Edge is getting 4 or 5 unique updates in the 0.85 version of the browser that's coming out that does some cool stuff around what you're doing with file encryption, what you're doing about security warnings, what you're doing for enterprise site list management, some of the stuff like that. And again, I think bottom line, you're not going to see this type of stuff at least for a bit, and stuff like Chrome and Firefox and stuff like that, because they're not controlling those browsers. But I think especially if you're an enterprise organization that has needs around some of the stuff of how you manage stuff, makes a compelling case for some of the reasons why Edge might be a valuable thing to consider in the future. So I expect this trend to continue over time.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. Well, we can move on to the launch category. It looks like we lost Tom, but I'm sure he'll be back. He'll be back shortly. So I'll start off with one from launch that I love, and that is the OneDrive for Business file request, where I can send a link to someone to request them to drop a file there. I love that. Versus sending, that just never works when I send someone and say, please send me a file. It's just chaos. So being able to send someone a link to, click here, give me that file. It's just beautiful. I love it. So I'm very, very excited that has finally come out. So Tamara, how about you? I know there's some really cool ones, so I'm sure you have some exciting ones.
Yeah. Again, Outlook on the web, meeting insights. So when you click on the meeting event in your calendar, Outlook will show you relevant content like email files or relevant information from LinkedIn for your meeting, so you can easily find what you need in meeting insights and now rolling out.
I got dropped, so I'm off the call. She'll carry on.
Why don't you just join me?
Okay.
Go ahead, Tim.
I love it. Very nice.
Tom and I live together. We're partners. So this is how he can drop off one part of the meeting to show up in the other part of the meeting.
That's great. So Tom, what were your favorites on launched?
For launch, if we scroll down a little bit, there were some SharePoint-y type things. Keep going. Go, further down. I was all prepared in the other room. It's under how you keep going. The hover card's cool. that's actually launched now, where people who viewed a file, if you hover over the file name, it'll now show who's been viewing it. So I think that's really cool. Also keeps in mind, there we go, the SharePoint list, the expanded view. They have a way now where you have a little icon up in the corner. It's kind of got arrows pointing out and arrows pointing in. It gives you a little bit more real estate to look at views. So it kind of gives you the ability to see more on a horizontal scale than you might otherwise. The other thing is the alternate row formatting.
I love that.
Yes, that is really cool. So it's going to make it a lot easier for you to say, hey, I just want to have alternate row formatting here without you having to do any, commas and semicolons that Jennifer is allergic to. You can just turn it on and if it's there. So I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah. A couple of things for teachers that I think are pretty cool, considering my kiddos are going to be doing school on Teams this year. Virtual school through Teams starting August 12th, but support for Google as an identity provider, as well as teachers get early access to class teams created with SDS. So that's going to be great because the teachers will be able to get in before the students and get the classroom ready, get everything ready, get it customized, do what they need to do. So I think that's great. I'm excited for them for that purpose. So that's actually pretty good. I'm actually thinking of reaching out to my kiddos' teachers and letting them know that I will train them on how to use Teams. He probably won't like that, but
You should volunteer to be there the first day of school and point out that you're their mother and you're there to help out. And if anyone has any questions, I can just talk to your kiddos and it'll be fine. They'll love that, Jen.
No. Let's not be crazy, Adam.
I'm just a troll at heart. I'll throw out two things real quick. One I thought was kind of cool, going back to my nerdy email days. They're increasing the DKIM key size up to 2048 bits. So basically a whole nother section of bits to have basically bigger, more complicated keys if you're doing DKIM. That's kind of become the norm recently, or at least maybe not the norm, but you're starting to see more and more people do that where they're doing domain keys instead of doing 1024, they're doing 248 or 2048. So Microsoft is now increasing that size to support it. And then again, this is just going to be, I guess, my week of shouting out to the GCC High and DoD people. They're finally getting background effects that has launched for them. So all of our friends that are in the government clouds that have been sitting there on meetings with us when we have background effects and they're feeling sad, they now get background effects. So happy for them.
There's a couple that are grouped together that are very nerdy. But they mean a lot for us ultimately, and that's with the Microsoft graph. So there's a lot of what are called like API or webhooks or different things there, and the Microsoft graph is what connects us all together. It's getting the signals, and so it's going to open up ways that we can communicate with the signals that we're giving the system by what we're doing. And so it's really exciting to see the signals that they're putting in and the things that they're tracking and the things that they're watching. And so this is going to be a very interesting spot to watch over the next, probably I'd say, couple of years and where they're going with this. So very excited to see. So they have a couple of things, probably 4 or 5 things that have launched in the area of the graph.
Office 365 groups are now Microsoft 365 groups, following the trend to rename everything to Microsoft. So
I feel so much better just knowing that.
Right.
Yeah.
But are the groups teal? That's what I really want.
Yeah. Where are the groups?
They do have golden folders, Tom. Don't worry.
Okay, as long as we still have our golden folders.
One
Too funny.
that's going on with Microsoft Teams is when a colleague joins a team, there will be a notification that goes out to the other members of the team to let them know that a new person has joined. So you've got faster transparency to who's in that team. So I like that.
Yep. I like that one too. Natural language in To Do. So it's starting to process natural language. So if I say, in the next 2 weeks, get this report done, it's going to parse the natural language and automatically set my due date based on the language that's in there. So that's kind of a neat thing for to do. So I think that's really cool. I think those are cool. Does anyone else have anything else in launched?
No, I'm trying to remember my spreadsheet that's over there, but I don't think I have anything.
Well, cool. Well, we have a couple of things that went by the wayside and canceled. So there was a feature
I love how
item.
they start their first one.
Yeah, that was the manage the discovery of private teams. And so that was a way that a team could make it easy to find teams that were private and request to join them. But customer feedback indicated that they didn't want their private teams discovered. So
It was desirable.
Yeah,
it wasn't desirable.
The exact sentence was, customer feedback has indicated that discoverability of private teams was not desirable. As a result, this feature is canceled. It's such a polite way to say everyone hated us adding this to the roadmap.
Yeah. So turns out that when people create a private team, they would like it to be private. Who would have thought?
Crazy talk.
Yeah. And then there's some things with Outlook for Android. They had some time zone support that is not going to be coming out anymore. And then there was tenant specific mailbox for sharing comms, and they've made some changes, or they were going to make some changes for how you could do that, but they're canceling that feature. And then the final one was the 7x7 view in meetings. It's duplicate because now we're going to have 7x7 and 3x3 and 49x49, and you're just going to see everybody, and we're going to have a together view. And I can't wait till we can do one together in the bar. We'll sit around the table and, do our thing there. So that one is getting removed, but it's just being replaced by other things. So nothing too crazy there. I'm not surprised by the Android one either. Something probably changed in Android. And the comms email one, I think that's just with alerts and things they're doing in the admin center and different things like that. They're probably just doing it a different way now. So no worries there. So those are our updates for this week. We will be back next week with more updates. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye guys.
Bye. Be safe, everyone.
Bye.